Reddit is full of interesting threads about famous people, and here is one of them. Ask Reddit, what's your "I met a celebrity but didn't let on that I knew who they were" story? My mom yelled at Pierce Brosnan. She and my dad were at a ski resort getting lunch. My mother gets quite hangry, an unfortunate trait I inherited, and was waiting in line to order. Right as she's about to order, a guy tried to cut in front of her and interrupt her. She snapped and told him to go to the back of the line like everyone else. She got her food and went back to my dad, sitting there mouth wide open in shock. Do you know who that was? No? That was Pierce Brosnan. You just yelled at James Bond. Well, he shouldn't have tried to cut me. My husband was vacationing in Newport, killing time in a bar over a burger and a beer. A guy sits next to him and my husband has a nice chat with him. The guy leaves and my husband goes to close his tab, and the bartender tells him it's been covered by the guy he was talking to. The bartender asks if he knows who he was talking to. My husband has no idea. Chuck Norris. It was his bar. I used to be a server at a Mexican restaurant right outside LA in the late 90s. One day, Leonardo Dicaprio came in with who I assume was his mom to have lunch. This would have been post-Titanic, so really at the peak of his breakthrough mega-celeb status. He was wearing a ball cap, sunglasses, and unshaven, but I recognized him right away. I didn't let anyone know, and I wrote something like, "Your movies are awesome, I hope you liked our food," on his receipt when I dropped it off at the table. After he left, I swung by and picked up his payment, and he had left me a note back that said, "Thank you so much for not blowing my cover," with a $100 tip. Shit was awesome. I was only like 19. I went and got some PlayStation games with it after my shift ended. My mom is a big sports fan. One time she was shopping and saw a really large, fit-looking man who she didn't immediately recognize but seemed familiar. She thought it must have been a professional football player or something, so she went up to the only other person in the shop, who was this smaller, weird-looking guy, and asked him if he knew who the athletic-looking man was. The short guy looked at my mom and said, "That's my bodyguard. I'm Elton John." This happened yesterday. My wife took my son to the zoo, and he wanted to read every little plaque in the reptile area. My wife was distracted for a moment, so he asked the nearest stranger to read the plaque for him. My wife turned around to see Scarlett Johansson happily reading the info to him. One of my best friend's doppelganger is Ethan Hawke. Like, it's scary how much he resembles him, to the point that during those stupid Facebook challenges, he just changed his profile picture to him and nobody realized it. Also, his favorite story was one time at San Diego Comic-Con. He actually confused Rosario Dawson at a hotel bar. Anyway, one night I'm walking home from work in New York City, and I see who I thought was my friend, John, just walking on a kind of secluded part of 9th Avenue around Hell's Kitchen. And I yelled, "John!" He doesn't turn around. So I decided to yell it again, and instead of responding, his pace quickens. I decide the best thing to do is run at him, which seemed to terrify him, as keep in mind, it's late and there are very few people around. Anyway, I catch up to him and say, "Oh, you're not John," and then walk away from what was a very frightened Ethan Hawke.